In this week's video, I'm going to review 5 tips for marketers in order to better understand sales from a sales perspective. So let's get started. There are many things that marketers can do in order to better understand a salesperson's role. Now, if you're an entrepreneur, you're probably well versed in both the marketing and the sales perspective. But if you're watching this and you're purely a marketer, then this is going to be a great video for you because as a marketer, it's really important to understand the sales role. And in fact, if you can ever get into a sales position, even if it's for a year, it will do you so much good as a marketer when you can understand from their perspective what you actually need to do in order to make their jobs easier, which then means the company makes more money and they'll like you more too. It was really interesting when I was looking at my analytics. I was curious as to which blog posts were actually generating the most views. And I was surprised that in 2020, my most popular blog post was actually one written in 2018. And this is when I was focusing on the alignment between marketing and sales. So I did a 10-step process, and each week I released a blog post related to each one of those steps. And step number 9 was having marketing involved on sales calls. Now, the reason why I included this as a separate post is because I was using my experience in a marketing role when I went through sales training way back when, and just really tapping into how much that helped me better understand my role as a marketer. When we can look at anything through the lens of the person or the situation that we're trying to picture ourselves in, is actually easier than if we just kind of live in our own little world, right? So in this example, as a marketer, you can do everything that you think is right in regards to research and surveys and creating documents and understanding content and looking at the customer journey and understanding what email marketing campaigns you need to do. You can do all of that, which is great, and sales appreciates it. But how often have you heard from a salesperson that the lead quality that they receive from marketing is, let's just be honest, crap? But the quality of those leads is only as good as the information that marketing is actually given or what they're using in order to generate those leads. With sales input or with sales experience, you are better equipped to understand so that sales doesn't need to be as involved in that process in order to generate higher quality leads and send them their way, right? So if you've got a handoff process, there might be a breakdown in between that handoff between marketing and sales, where it's the lead quality and maybe not the process that's actually creating the problem. So if sales is getting a bunch of leads that they're telling you as a marketer are crap, then there's an opportunity there to not just go out and search for new leads, but to understand why those leads are crap. There are things that you can do as a marketer besides actually going into a sales position to better understand how you can serve your sales team. I was working as a corporate employee way back when, my very first full-time job that I absolutely loved as a marketer, where I got a lot of my experience. I got my sales training, leadership experience, so many wonderful things at this company. One of the things that sales kept telling us marketers is that we live in an ivory tower. It means you don't have the experience or you don't have the actual know-how of what you're talking about. It was highly recommended that we spend time with outside sales. Why? Because they meaning leadership, wanted us to experience life realistically from a sales perspective. So actually going out, talking to the sales rep, actually going on appointments, understanding what that sales rep did before meeting with that client. We would go through and do a lot of the research, but that was just research. And until we actually got in the car with our outside salesperson and went on these calls and had the conversations with them, it was we were literally living in an ivory tower. We were living with tunnel vision on how we could best serve sales. So those conversations were so enlightening. because we could hear those conversations directly from the customers. So the objections, and then living in those situations, a lot of them were small businesses. So you make the appointment, you go in, and of course there's interruptions, or the meeting gets canceled because one of their customers needs them, or a crisis came up or something. As a small business owner, you know what I'm talking about, right? But it's a matter of just seeing that situation in reality. Now, of course, right now with COVID, it's not realistic to actually go out and have these meetings and appointments in person everywhere yet. It's the same thing as being on a call or on a Zoom meeting, or somehow as a marketer getting involved with the salespeople in their process to better understand how you can serve them. So one way that you can do that, which I just mentioned, is to actually be on sales calls. And this isn't the cold calling process, unless you want to hear that. I mean, a lot of times those just end in voicemails or not leaving a message at all. But be involved in that process so that you can actually hear the conversations that salespeople have with prospects, so that you can better understand the objections that they're having, how a customer can be with a sales rep. You're going through training, you're hearing different things, and until you can actually hear a conversation with a prospect, sometimes they get upset, sometimes they get really short, sometimes they're really excited, and then they lose interest. And it's good to hear that so that it's more realistic into how you can have follow-up conversations with those salespeople. But then also, when you're hearing those objections and you're hearing the pushbacks and you're hearing the delays or reasons why they don't want to move forward to the next step, whether it's purchasing or just going to the next step, when you hear those things, then you are better equipped with information, valuable information that's going to help you in your job, which then is going to help you better serve your sales team. The second thing is understanding the process a salesperson goes through once a prospect decides to buy from them. So everything could be online. Most of it probably is right now with paperwork and contracts and next steps and onboarding if there is one. Understand that entire process. And then if there are other people involved, like if the onboarding process is handed off to someone else, understand who that person is. What's the handoff process like? The reason why I'm saying to understand that process is because as a marketer, you're developing messaging and content, not just that leads up to the sale, but what you're doing actually is going to lead into the customer retention side of the business as well, which is after the sale. So when you can understand if there are issues that are happening as part of the onboarding, or maybe it's part of the handoff process, maybe it's billing or the invoicing process, whatever that is, when you can understand that from a marketing perspective, it gives you more insight into the challenges and successes that the rest of the company is having. It also gives you ideas on different ways that you can incorporate your messaging or any specials or any new products that you have coming out, or reminders to existing customers to possibly become a part of a VIP program. Whatever it is, there's different ways that you can continue to market your brand in other ways outside of the before the sale process. The third thing that you can do as part of the ongoing sales building relationship is to understand the product and pricing conversations. So I know back when I was getting trained and actually went through sales roles, it was very eye-opening to understand that your product has a price, right? And you may have incentives depending on the situation, or you may have a temporary discount like I do right now with my online course. Until it actually launches, there's a discount. So in those situations, it's good to understand not only the product and the pricing, but why the pricing is happening. From a marketing perspective, you can then take that information and develop better messaging that's going to help the salesperson in positioning it with prospects. It's also going to help you with understanding in your marketing campaign, if you're doing a drip campaign, understand what that messaging really needs to be like if you fully understand the pricing behind the product and the objections that a salesperson may go through when talking about the pricing. When you hear objections or when you hear pushback or any type of conversation related to pricing, there's probably going to be consistencies in the wording. And with that wording, you can use that information to handle that objection up front in your marketing messaging. So the more information you can get on that, it's going to help you with the pricing and the positioning of your messaging on the front side, which is then going to help eliminate or at least reduce a lot of those objections when the sales rep is actually having those conversations with those prospects. The fourth thing that's important to understand is if there are different personas in your business. If you already have these defined, high five, you got it going on. If you don't, having conversations with your salespeople while they're talking to prospects or just with your salespeople in general is actually going to help you better define what your personas or ideal customer avatars are. If you have an established business and you've got, hundreds or thousands of customers, chances are pretty high that you have a good understanding of the different types of customers that are more likely to purchase from you, which ones stay with you longer, which ones buy from you multiple times. With that information from a data perspective, you can start to create your personas. The conversations that you as a marketer can have with sales is going to create a completely different picture. It's actually going to humanize the data so that you can better create marketing messaging to target those specific audiences so that it resonates with them more. When you have the different personas established, that's actually going to help you better define the different groupings, and which ultimately is going to help you better create messaging that's going to increase the quality of your leads. And that in itself is going to increase the conversion rate and get customers to stay with you longer. The fifth thing I have for you today on how marketing can better help sales is if you have the opportunity to become a sole contributor or a salesperson with an organization, regardless of the size, where you can just focus 100% on sales, I highly recommend it. And the reason being is because even though I had the sales training early on in that marketing role, the ivory tower role, that was what led me to future sales positions, which led me to bigger opportunities. But then ultimately with my business now, KenK Marketing, it's helped me better understand from a marketing to sales perspective what I need to do from a messaging perspective in order to better attract and have better conversations, high quality conversations with prospects in order to better serve them. So if that's something that you've ever considered doing, going into a sales role, highly recommend it. It definitely will help. Again, if you're an entrepreneur, you're running your own business, you've got customers, you are already on top of this, so you don't need to worry about that, but just make sure that everything that you're doing with your process from the marketing to the completion of the sales and actually converting to a customer, and then the after sales process, customer service, accounting, all of that, the entire process is syncing, and you understand how to keep those customers longer by having those consistencies in your business. Just know that in order to be successful in marketing, you have to understand sales. I will include the link to that blog post in the description. So if you want to read that blog post, you're more than welcome to do so. That will also link you to the other steps in the 10-step process for how to better align your marketing and sales team. So that'll be included below as well. Thank you so much for being here with me today. If you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe and the bell notification so you know when new videos are uploaded. Don't forget to hit the like button too. That's important. Helps the YouTube algorithm and also the Google algorithm. So don't forget to do that too. Thank you so much for being here. And until next time, make today great.